You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast. My name's Mark Hunter. And hey, why do salespeople overcomplicate things? Oh, come on, people. We can mess up a two-car funeral. To help me unpack this today is Brad Pierce. Simplified selling is his business. Comes to us out of corporate America. Why am I talking? Let's get the show going right now.
You're listening to the Sales Hunter podcast with Mark Hunter, where the focus is to help you as a sales leader sell with confidence and integrity. And now here's your host.
Oh, my guest today comes out of corporate America. I loves it. He's walked the same walk I have. Brad Pierce, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Hey, simplified selling. Why do salespeople overcomplicate things? Come on, this is not a complicated bit. We're not heart surgeons. At least I'm not. Maybe you are. I'm not. No.
I'm not. I think that people have a tendency to overthink things, including myself. So how do we break it down?
Why do we do that?
I think it's the perfection, at least for me. I think there's a lot of different things in sales you have to do right. But this idea of trying to do everything right perfectly all the time is just, it can be cumbersome and it can be confusing and it can be completely overwhelming. So the question is like, how do we break it down into this like simple tactics and strategies? Because it comes down to execution, right? Every day.
Yeah, I want you to unpack that, but I got to ask you this question with your background, with your experience. You've never made a mistake. You've been perfect your whole life, haven't you? Come on, right?
No.
Okay, so unpack what you just said, because again, what are the strategies that we got to do? Because I find myself overcomplicating things all the time.
Yeah. As a sales rep, it's really like very simple, right? When you think about what the objective is, it comes down to like really three things, right? What is it that we're solving for the client first and foremost? And that's kind of where the starting point is. At least that's the way I think about it. What's the problem that we're trying to solve for our client? And then the number two is, well, who are we actually talking to? Like who are the people that we're talking to, or who are the companies that we're talking to solve that problem? And number three is like, how do we help them get there and get to the outcome that they're looking for? And that's it. That's really it.
Okay, let's break down. I want you to break down each one of those. Let's start with that first one. Unpack it further for us.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of overcomplicated, stressed out salespeople out there who need you right now.
Yeah, here's what it comes down to. And you know this, Mark, like in business, like people are only in business because they're out there solving problems. And ultimately, like I know we have the word sales, simplified sales, sales hunter, the word sales, but ultimately what we're people that are going out there to help solve problems. So if we start with that mindset of, hey, how am I going to help this person or this company solve a problem? That's the very first part of it. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, because there's something there, because so many people say, well, that's why they need to buy XYZ. They need to buy the widget. And yet, hold it, cowboys. Yeah. We got to slow the wagon train down here, folks. Are there certain questions that you think salespeople should be asking that they're not asking to help really uncover what is that need? What's that challenge that customers have?
Yeah, one specific question that I always ask in discovery calls is why. So the question is like, there's a reason why that prospect or individual or company reached out to you. Well, why is that? What triggered them to actually reach out to you? And that can uncover a lot of information when you're talking to your prospects, when you're talking to, whoever it is that you're trying to help.
Wow. Okay. Now, why? Salespeople are afraid to ask that question. I mean, they're at because, oh no, what happens if the customer says something that makes me feel uncomfortable, or I can't answer, or something like that? I mean, how do we get people to feel comfortable just asking why?
Yeah. What I share, Mark, is if you go into those discovery calls with a mindset of curiosity and just asking questions, it's like getting to know somebody, right? Like when you first meet somebody, the first thing that you do is you start to ask questions, who they are, where they're from, all of that. It's the same thing with discovery calls. In discovery calls, it's why did you reach out? What's the problem? Tell me about more. But it's more of the mindset of actually having curiosity versus more than anything. And hopefully that helps you kind of become more at ease.
Hey, I want to help understand discovery calls because I really truly do believe that discovery calls are really a messed up process. Before I do that, I got to say that this episode is sponsored by the How to Get a Meeting with Anyone Mastermind. It's where elite sellers learn audacious, proven strategies to land impossible meetings with their dream clients. It's created by Stu Heineck, the Wall Street Journal cartoonist who AMA named the father of contact marketing. Join now at getameetingmastermind.com. Spots are limited. Okay, the discovery call. Because again, I see some salespeople think, well, as soon as I get into discovery call, as soon as I can close, I close. Others say they're going to make it really. Well, what have you found makes a good discovery call?
Well, one is preparation, right? So the mindset piece is first. Right? Come in with that discovery call with the mindset of being curiosity. But then number two is preparation. Well, how do we prepare for this discovery call? Well, you do have to do a little bit of research on the company, the products and services that they're selling. You got to do kind of the backstory, research on that company or prospect or whatever that might be. And that gives you the kind of the framework of the kind of questions that you can ask to dive a little bit deeper. And so for me, from a discovery call perspective, you can kind of map out maybe some of the questions that you typically would do in a discovery call. But I really kind of run these discovery calls as really kind of a two-way conversation and just make it more conversational. But your goal is to get to the pain of one, why they reached out to you. Number two, what is the pain that they're trying to solve for? And then number three, it's like why are you looking? Like, what is it about what your current situation looks like now? And what is it that you're trying to change? Like, what is your expectation of the transformation of what that might look like for you? So those are kind of the premise of what I try to drive down in a discovery call.
I love that third question because so many times it still happens today where customers are just looking for looking. They're just looking for the sake of looking. It's really not an urgency for them to buy. And if you ask that question right, what you just said helps them flush that out. Okay, so I've got this discovery phase. And again, you said it's just a conversation, kind of like what we're having today. But back when we were backstage in the green room, we said, hey, this is just like we're having a beer together. You're right. It's just a conversation. So let's keep this thing going because, again, where does the presentation have a place in the sales process, or is that part of the overcomplication?
It has a place in the sales process for sure, because they're going to ask you questions as to what do you do, so on and so forth. So what I typically do in discovery calls is to collect as much information as possible to get to where I actually have a clear story of where their current state is and what their future state should look like. And then the second step in the sales process is what I typically do in a sales or discovery call is I don't necessarily present to them at that point. Maybe I'll give them a high level of kind of what I do. But what I typically do is I get a micro commitment to the next step of getting the next call booked so I can share with them more specifics around some of the recommendations on how I feel like I can help them. And that's the number one goal, right? And you know this, Mark, every single call that you have with a prospect, the goal is to get the next meeting booked. And so that's kind of the next step in the sales process from that standpoint. And that's where the presentation comes in.
I love that. So the presentation is actually on the second sales call, not the first one. And I think that's where so many salespeople, they want to go in, hey, we've been in business 65, we got 3 locations, and it's a really cool building. And wow, who cares? Who cares? So you've really just spun that around right there. That we don't even, and of course, I'm sure you don't advocate talking about that, but you have a presentation in terms of our capabilities and so forth, how we can serve you. That's the second call. That right there is a major pivot, I think, for salespeople. Again, I think salespeople are scared to do that because it takes them their normal path.
Well, and I think the first call in the discovery, you can leave that call and ask that prospect specifically, like, hey, I'm going to come back with you with a couple different recommendations of how we can help you get to where you want to be. Is there anything specifically that you would like to address in that same breath on the second call? And so what you're doing is you're getting not only a commitment from them, but you're also getting involvement from them on an input as to maybe some other information that they want to be able to collect. So now you're actually really getting them involved as to like what this next thing looks. Now in the presentation, their expectations of what they're going to see, everybody's aligned in that way. Like there's no surprises, there's no, anything like that would maybe throw that prospect off. What I try to do is be transparent with that prospect of exactly what this next step's going to look like, and here's what's going to be delivered. Is there anything else in that process or anything in that step, Mr. Prospect or Mrs. Prospect, that we need to add in there that you would like to see?
I love what you're saying there, because what you're really talking about is that you're engaging the customer, and it's not just a one-way process. And you're getting them to kind of create a commitment to that second meeting. Hey, this idea just flashed through my head, because you've sold at the enterprise level, you sold at the SMB level.
Yeah.
What should SMB people steal as far as an idea that enterprise people do that they should be doing? And what's an idea that enterprise people should be stealing from SMB that SMB people do really well, but they're not?
Yeah. So that's a really, really great question, Mark. So in the SMB world, I think that the one thing that they could steal from the enterprise sales team is to think more strategically about their prospects, right? And think about more the broader picture of how your solution fits into the broader goals of the organization. That's one. And then number two, one of the things that enterprise sales reps can do to take from the SMB is think about how, because like we're living in a world today where we're starting to see enterprise sales reps, right, become more pressured into doing more with less, meaning, hey, I've got to source more leads on my own. I've got to go like, and you've seen it, Mark, all over the place, but that pressure is real, right? We're starting to see kind of like this shift of SDRs and BDRs maybe come into different roles or anything like that. Well, if enterprise sales reps can take the discipline of what an SMB does from a daily activity perspective and make that part of their workflow from a prospecting and new business development, now I'm coming from a new business development lens, that would serve them well.
I like what you just said there, because again, it is so true. So many times enterprise salespeople really don't have a routine, really aren't set, because again, they kind of go with wherever the customer's taking them. But the SMB, they've got a repetitive model that they absolutely own. And I think what you just said is something interesting, because I think, and I meet with a lot of enterprise people, they waste a lot of time. They waste a lot of time because they're off in never land, and it's not really paying out for them. Yeah. So I love that. Okay. So let's continue this, because again, you've got this lens of this corporate experience and all these. What do you see? Where do you see the sales process going over the next couple of years?
Man, I love that question. I think the sales process, when we think about enterprise sales, and then as we go downstream into mid-market or even SMB for that matter, I think with so much information that's being thrown at buyers today, right? And we all know, right? Whether you're SMB or whether you're enterprise sales, most of these buyers, they're doing research online before they even connect with the sales rep. And I think I read somewhere, I think it was a HubSpot, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I think I read somewhere it was like 75, maybe 80% of buyers are already down the path.
And they don't even want to ever talk to a salesperson, really, if they have the druthers.
Right. So we're going to start to see more and more in terms of the sales process as we move forward in the future, where sales reps really have to think about, how do I lead with insights and value first mentality whether you're SMB, whether you're enterprise sales. And what I mean by that is that when you do outreach or engagement in prospecting and new business development, it's really, really important to lead with insights and value, right? Because they're already down that path. And so when we think about the sales process, and back when I was selling an SMB, I didn't have a content strategy. I had my sales manager say, hey, you're going to go to zip codes in this area in Phoenix, Arizona, and you're going to knock on doors in these business parks. And I want you to knock on 50 doors today. And we have these metrics at the end of the week. Well, I didn't have any insights or content or strategy around that. And today we're living in a digital world where people are online all the time. And so how do we position ourselves as an authority and leader in our space? That's where LinkedIn really comes into play, really building your personal brand strategy, building your personal brand and your messaging, right? Position yourself really as an expert and authority to help solve a specific problem. So this idea of leading with insights and value is going to be really important, integrated into that sales process moving forward in the future.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk about that because you are a LinkedIn expert. You've teamed up with Bryn Tillman, who we've had on the show several times. Very good friends with her. Excellent. Call her the LinkedIn Whisperer.
Yeah.
And I mean,
She's really good.
She is absolutely phenomenal. But what are you seeing from a LinkedIn perspective that salespeople should be jumping on?
Yeah, I think the very first thing on just LinkedIn profiles in general, and Bryn would hammer this home all day long, but we've got, if we're really in that sales position to add value to other people, we've got to move from that shift of resume to resource, right? This idea of having this LinkedIn profile page as, hey, this is where I've worked, this is what I've done. This is more about, hey, this is how I can help you. So if you can convert your LinkedIn profile to more of a resource page than a resume page, that's the first step. And then I would say the second step is, if you are in enterprise sales or even mid-market sales for that matter, it could even be SMB, but Sales Navigator, I think, is one of the most underutilized sales tools today that it's the only one of its kind today that actually can help you drive buyer proximity in your network. There is no other sales tool in the sales stack today that can actually do that. So that's a really, really important tool to use. And then the other one is just surfacing buying signals and triggers out of that tool. So I would say those are kind of like the three main pillars when you think about a LinkedIn strategy from a sales perspective.
Yeah, because there's so much we can do to identify both the ICP, ideal customer profile. That's kind of basic now. It's kind of foundational. But then buyer intent, because there's ways we can see those signals, those triggers that are happening there. Why? Because I see this with a lot of companies, a lot of salespeople. Oh, we have Sales Navigator. Oh yeah, we have it on. Every salesperson's got it, but they never use it.
Right.
It to me is kind of almost like CRM systems were about 5 or 10 years ago. Everybody had a CRM system, but nobody used it. This adoption rate is so slow.
Very low.
How do we accelerate this adoption rate of LinkedIn?
It all starts with leadership. So I think the problem that I see out there in the market today, and just in general, right? Like these sales teams, these sales enablement teams, they'll invest a lot of dollars into their tech stacks, whether it's a CRM, Sales Navigator, or any other tool in their tech stack. But the problem is that they don't actually sit down with the frontline salespeople to actually map out what the strategy is on how to leverage whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. And then what are the right tools that we need to bring in to help us enable that objective or goal? So I would say the very first thing is that as a sales enablement leader or a revenue leader is to sit down and map out what's the objectives and what are we trying to accomplish here? And then identify, hey, what are the right tools that we can bring into our tech stack to use? And so any of those sales leaders that bring in a Sales Navigator or LinkedIn as a primary tool, that's the very first part of it, is set that expectation that this is going to be your part of your daily workflow and part of your integrated sales process to leverage Sales Navigator to drive warm introductions and to really build your brand. So that's where that starts. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, your business is Simplified Selling, and you're working on a book right now around LinkedIn. Tell the audience about the book and about your business.
Yeah. So I'm writing a book right now. It's called LinkedIn Sales Navigator, The Sales Leader's Guide to Trust-Based Prospecting and Scalable Relationship Growth. And what it is it's essentially a guide to help drive adoption for those sales teams that really are looking to elevate their relationships and prospecting efforts. And so that's something that I'm super excited about. And that'll come out towards the end of the year, beginning of the year. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
Okay, I love what you're talking because you had the word trust in the title. LinkedIn is not a connect and pitch. It's not
Right.
connect and pitch. It really is about developing a relationship, which is what people have to realize, that LinkedIn is not this tool that suddenly I can get Sales Navigator, for instance, and suddenly tomorrow be closing sales. Wrong again. It's and it's not a slow moving train, because it's like a flywheel that you got to get it going. Absolutely fantastic. Hey, tell the audience your website.
It's simplifiedsales.com. And you can reach out to me on linkedin.com as well. So
great. I would hope that you're all over LinkedIn. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Simplifiedsales.com is the website. We've been talking today with Brad Pierce. And if you're wondering the spelling, it's Pearse, correct?
That's correct. You got it.
So don't look for the other Brad Pierce out there. Look for Brad Pierce. It's Pearse. Wow, I got to say that slowly. Anyway, hey, you've been listening to the Sales Hunter podcast. What is it? It's 2 episodes a week. One like this, where we do a deep dive with a subject matter expert. Second one is a shorter one, single topic with me, that comes out every Monday. Hey, we do hope that you enjoy this. Would you leave us a review on your favorite podcast app? Let me hear your comments on LinkedIn or any social media for that matter. My name is Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Great selling.